welcome to your snack sandwich. Today I have a really quick video for you. Well, it's not going to be too quick, but kind of quick on Liquity. Okay, Bold. Liquity version 2, Bold. Now, I do have a video on Liquity version 1, and you can see it here, and you can watch that if you want. It'll kind of give you an idea of what's going on here, but you don't really need to watch that, but it is something that would be useful to understand if you're looking at this, because there are some similarities, like it is version 2 of version 1, so there's definitely some carryover as well. If you really want to know deeply and deeply understand, I would suggest you to watch both of those. Okay, so before I get into my flow chart, I will preface this with the fact that I have read this version 2 white paper. I haven't, of course, used this. It's not quite completely live. There's no front end to access this and so forth. So I've read this white paper based on my understanding of this white paper, as well as this like README. This README is pretty in depth, has a lot of math and stuff in there, and a lot of function calls that you might want to really geek out on. You can, of course, check the URLs here. I'll try to remember to put them somewhere attached to that video, wherever this video might be, and you can go and dig a little bit deeper. So without further ado, let's swing over to the flowchart and kind of figure out what's going on inside Liquity. Okay, so here we are on the flowchart. We've got dollar bill and we have bold or Liquity, the Liquity bold protocol inside the middle here. Now I will preface this with the one of the things that I really love about Liquity is that it's almost completely immutable. There's a small, tiny amount of governance added to this, but that doesn't allow them to change any of the features. It's like unstoppable stablecoins. Now that was the same for the case with the Liquity version 1, LUSD. However, there wasn't even a touch of like a little taste of governance at all. So here there's a little bit. So let's get into the gist of it and kind of figure out what's going on. So one of the first changes, one of the first things is they will accept not only WETH, but also some LST. So currently they're looking at Lido staked ETH and Rocket Pool ETH. But however, there might be more by the time that this goes live and so forth. It doesn't say anywhere in the docs if they can add it. And since it is immutable, I don't think they will actually be able to add any collaterals if they accept, if they decide on these three right now. Okay. So when you put these collaterals into the system, they create their own troves. Okay, so they're all isolated collateral positions. So dollar bill will, like say, put some WETH in here and mint some bold versus it, and then his WETH will kind of go into its own trove. Okay, he can put some WST ETH in there, and he can mint some bold versus that, and it will go into its own trove. Now, not only are these troves isolated from each other, but dollar bills troves are also isolated from other people's as well. So everybody's isolated to some extent, okay? Now, that's kind of representative by the fact that if he were to use WETH to mint a WETH, he would get an NFT inside his wallet. That NFT can then, of course, be used to transfer his collateral debt position, his position to another wallet if he so deems that he wants to, okay? The protocol is going to have a collateral ratio of roughly 110. So if you put $100, you get about 90 bold out of it. That's for WETH. Now, these other tokens, they will have different collateral ratios that are lesser than this because they consider WETH to be the least riskiest. So it allows for the best collateral ratio, or like a 90% LTV. Okay, whereas Lido and Rocket might be something like 80 or 85 or something like that. Okay, you'll have to kind of check the front end when it's ready. Okay. Now, one of the first things that he can do is they have this adjustable interest rate. So in Liquity version 1, there was no interest rate. There was only a borrow fee. But they found that this created some issues. Okay, so the first issue is that people couldn't really borrow for short term, because if they wanted to borrow for a couple of days, then their borrow fee would kind of mitigate that. They would have to use that LUSD that they borrowed to get a huge amount of interest, like I think it was like 5% or something that, or 1% or something like that, or even less than that. But I can't remember the percentage. But they'd have to get a significant amount of yield in a short amount of time in order to offset that borrow fee. So they've removed the borrow fee. There is no borrow fee. However, you have to pay an interest rate. Okay. and you can adjust your interest rate on the fly. So anytime you want, you can deem to pay more interest than you currently are, or pay less interest than you currently are. And you'll understand why as we go through the system and we get a little bit further in. Now, one of the key caveats here is there's a 7-day upfront interest fee. So as soon as you like set your fee, your debt is going to be like increased by 7 days worth of interest. And then if you want to adjust things, it's going to like kind of play a role in that as well. Like if you within that 7 days, if you start adjusting your interest rate, then your debt is going to be increased a little bit or something like this. You can dig a little bit deeper, but that's kind of like a caveat that you got to kind of watch out for. Okay, so this is the first big change is adjustable interest rates. Now, the second thing is because adjusting the interest rate is kind of a pain in the butt, right? Maybe you don't want to do this all the time. So you can delegate this power to other individuals or other things. Okay, they have two kinds of delegation features. And the first one is an individual delegation where you would delegate to another wallet. Now, in this case, Dollar Bill is delegating to Grandma because Grandma's always home and she can watch his interest rate for him. And he will then set an interest rate to interest rate range. So let's say he doesn't want Grandma to be able to turn it up past like 60% interest rate. So then he would put the max at 60% and the minimum at some lower point. And you'll understand why you would want to maybe set the limit a little bit higher as we get a little bit further, okay? Now, of course, these are revocable. He can take Grandma's power away. Now, he can also say like have his position on a multi-sig wallet and then delegate to an end of address so he doesn't have to like constantly like click his ledger in order to adjust his range if that's what he wanted to do. The second kind of delegation is a batch, whereas like some institution or some DeFi DAO or protocol might want to perform this management for you. Okay. Now, of course, this batch will have its own preset ranges, so you'll have to do your own research and say like, oh, that batcher will want to be able to change everybody's range between X and Y, right? Now, what makes this batch thing special is that it batches them, so it can change everyone's interest rate with the same transaction, and that can save some gas and so forth. Okay. Now, of course, a batching protocol is going to want a management fee for this, so they can set some sort of management fee. I'm not exactly sure where this management fee comes from, but that management fee will be there. So maybe dig a little bit deeper and find out where that management fee comes from. And of course, again, like Dollar Bill can revoke the privileges of that too there. Another kind of delegation is debt management. So maybe he wants to give Grandma the ability to control his position a little bit because maybe he's going on vacation and he needs Grandma to watch it and make sure things are okay. Now, there's two kinds of debt management. There's a simple one where it's like, give her the power to add debt, remove debt, remove collateral, like basically gives her the power over that NFT for the most part. And then there's a benevolent management where she can only do positive things like repay debt or add collateral if it's like at liquidation, getting closer to liquidation risk and so forth. Okay. Now, of course, he can set up some sort of private deal with Grandma, or maybe Grandma is a protocol and there could be some sort of payment to Grandma in order to do this feature for Dollar Bill. Okay. Moving on, now that he has some BOLD inside his wallet, he can do with it as he please. So of course he can go to wherever the liquidity pools are, swap it for USDC and go and buy a boat, right? Or he can go and do anything like that. Now, an option in order to use this BOLD token is to add it to the Curve liquidity pool or wherever the liquidity happens to be and earn some trading fees. And in the case of Curve, earn some CRV or whatever other trading like kind of liquidity pools there are out there. He can take that BOLD there and earn those rewards, right? Second possibility is he can take his BOLD and he can put it into one of the stability pools. Now, every kind of collateral type has its own stability pool. Now, the purpose of the stability pool is like a liquidation backstop. So it's a whole bunch of BOLD sitting in here. In the case that these things need to be liquidated, that BOLD can easily buy that that collateral. So repay the debt, remove that collateral, and then whoever's sitting inside this stability pool will have less BOLD to claim, but a whole bunch of liquidated assets to claim. Now, there is a bonus, so you earn the 5% of the liquidated collaterals. So when this is liquidated, it's 5% fee. So it's kind of like you're buying that collateral 5% below market price in the case of liquidations. Okay. Now, again, each of these stability pools are for each of the collateral assets, and they all have their own. They will, like, so if you put into this one, you will only be earning Rocket ETH. You will not get any of these other assets. Okay. Moving on, second way this thing earns is the interest rate from those troves is given to the stability pool of that type. So all the WETH interest rate, so all of that interest that is owed is sent to these stability pools. So they are earning BOLD as well as sometimes they will earn the liquidated collaterals, right? Now, 70% is sent to the stability pools, and 30% is sent down here to this gauge protocol. And this gauge protocol will be able to use LQTY token holders. So people who have the governance token of Liquity will be able to stake inside here and get voting rights to send that 30% to different protocols that have liquidity pools for the BOLD tokens. So kind of maybe it will come in the case of like rewards on a gauge for the liquidity providers, or maybe some sort of bribe system or something like that. So keep an eye out for this gauge system and how it exactly will work. Okay, moving on. Now we have Ninja Nick here. Ninja Nick is a redeemer. He wants to redeem. So in version 1, they had redemptions as well. However, in version 2, redemptions are a little bit different, okay? So Ninja Nick sees that, people have been selling a lot of BOLD in the liquidity pool, and BOLD is currently trading at a discount to $1. So in this case, 99 cents. Maybe it's at 95 cents, maybe 90 cents, maybe 89 cents, maybe 2 cents. I don't know, right? So Ninja Nick sees that and he buys it from the liquidity pool, or let's say he's holding it, okay? So it's currently worth 99 cents in the liquidity pool, but the BOLD protocol considers it $1. So he can then take that 99 cents coins and commit it to the protocol. Now, I don't know how long he has to commit, but he has to commit and wait. Now, the point of this is so that like his redemptions happen based on genuine price movements, okay, not just quick little flash loans or quick little deviations from peg, and people do not get redeemed as much in this case, okay? Now, what the redemption will do is he's going to look at the stability pool, or sorry, look at the collaterals, right? And he's going to try to redeem because he knows he bought this BOLD for 99 cents, and he knows that Liquity or the BOLD protocol here considers it worth $1. So he's going to get some of these collaterals back when he redeems. And when he redeems, he's going to be paying off some people's debt. So how does the system decide whose debt and which collaterals to give him? And the first thing it looks at is the ratios of the collaterals inside the stability pool. Now, this is a little bit complicated, so I'll try to go slowly here and kind of explain it. So what it does is it looks at the entire circulating supply of BOLD, right, outside the stability pools, and it kind of says, oh, which stability pool is the most full in comparison to the circulating BOLD. So that basically means that not as many people are putting tokens inside the stability pool. Now, what that kind of translates to is they don't really want these assets at a discount. Because if, like in this case, you see that only like 20% of the entire supply of circulating tokens are in that. So they kind of really want this. Whereas in this case, 40% and 40%, they don't really want these. So it's not how much tokens are inside the stability pool. It's how many tokens of the what percentage of the tokens are not inside the stability pool that, in reference to the entire supply of liquidity or bold debt, so to speak. Okay. So he's not going to get one asset back. He's going to get all three in this case, but he's going to get 40% ETH, 20% Lido ETH, and 40% Rocket ETH when he decides to redeem some of those tokens. Okay. Now, which troves? Remember, I told you everybody's trove is isolated, right? So instead of attacking the troves that have the least collateral ratio, what they do instead is they take from the ones who have the lowest interest rate. Now that's why this management is so powerful, because if you are the one who's paying the least amount of interest, then your trove will be redeemed first. Okay, so that's why it's so powerful to have these bots or grandma constantly monitoring the interest rates of other people and increasing yours to like slightly more than what everybody else is doing. So in the old system, what they were doing is everybody was adding collateral or reducing their debt because they wanted a better LTV or collateral ratio, right? In this case, you can still maintain that capital efficiency. However, you just pay a little bit more in interest to the people in the stability pool. And if you're in that stability pool, then you're paying yourself in some senses. Okay. So I hope that makes sense and I hope that's clear. Now, the next part is when he redeems. So let's say he wants to redeem 1,000 BOLD worth of 1,000 BOLD tokens for 1,000 dollars worth of collateral. He also has to pay a small redemption fee. I think it's 5% or something, 0.5% or something like this. So he's going to commit that, entire amount. He's going to the $1,000 will pay off dollar bills like debt, and then the extra $5 will be sitting here waiting for dollar bill to claim at some time. Now remember, dollar bill still has his bold. He has taken his bold. He has put his bold somewhere else, and he's put it to use. So it's kind of like a liquidation, but not quite as bad. Okay. Now we're going to talk about some panic modes in the case of some bad things happen, like these assets start depegging quite significantly and so forth. So they have this total collateral ratio versus the critical threshold. Now this number is probably like around 110%. If it starts going below that, then the system kind of shuts off a little bit. Okay, so this first one is the critical threshold, and then what it does is no new debt of that kind for that asset. So people can still do these other assets, but this specific asset is on critical threshold warning. So no new debt. People can still, like dollar bill would still be able to withdraw his collateral if he pays his debt, if he's paying more debt off, right? And then he can also repay and add collateral if that's something he wanted to do, so he doesn't get liquidated. Okay. And then the last part here, where the shutdown threshold is where this didn't work enough, and now what it does is it really shuts down and says, you can only close this trove. So that means repay everything and close it. And then the redemption fee that he has to pay actually becomes a redemption bonus. So he puts $1,000 and he's going to get like $1,005 worth of collateral when he redeems at this when it's in this shutdown threshold phase. Okay, so I hope this has been useful and interesting. This is not an easy protocol to understand. It's quite cool though. I really like it, and the things that I really do like the most is, again, they're practicing good decentralization. Immutable contracts, completely decentralized, no governance, no changeability. Everything is dependable, predictable, and so forth. The only governance is what I said down here, where these liquidity holders can direct this extra bold to bribe or to incentivize liquidity pools outside the system. Okay, so that's it for today, and I hope this has been useful and interesting. And thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.